Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Chronically Me Podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and in today's episode, we're talking about how to handle the bad days when you live chronically ill. If you live chronically ill like me and are looking for more purpose, control, and joy in your life, then you are in the right place. This is the podcast that challenges your thinking around chronic illness so you can live the most amazing life despite extra challenges. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the podcast. I guess technically it's the second episode, but the first one was mostly just get to know me, introducing the podcast. This is where we really get into the meat of what this podcast is going to be about, and I'm so excited to share it with you. I'm a life coach, and my clients live chronically ill, just like me, and something that they ask and something I ask myself all the time is, how do you handle the bad days? What do you do when you have a rough day? This question fascinates me because what does that even mean? What does it mean to have a bad day? We just throw these words out. Good day, bad day, I was happy, I was sad. Just these very general things, but we don't really sit down and think about what does that mean to me. So the first thing I want you to do is decide what a bad day is. And many times my clients will come back to me and say, well, I would love to define that for you, but I just know it when I see it. Well, tell me the last time you had a bad day is usually the next thing I ask them. How did you know that was a bad day versus a good day? You've got to ask yourself those questions because sometimes me in particular is who I'm talking to on this episode. Sometimes I throw this word around and I'm like, oh, it was just such a bad day today. And really a lot went really well. And maybe I had a few things that went wrong, or maybe I was just feeling extra emotional for whatever reason. And so I just called it a bad day. When in reality, when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, wow, I have days that are way worse than this. Why am I calling today a bad day? And I don't know about you, but I often overuse this word of bad. I like to think about it like when I was dating. I'm married now, but when I was dating, I remember feeling scared about overusing the word love. I was worried about telling the boys I was dating that I was in love with them unless I was 100% sure that I was there. And I remember after the first time I fell in love with a boy, not my husband, sorry, my first love, I felt something different than I had felt before. And then I dated other boys after that, and some of them, I was able to get to that place and like, yes, I love this person too. And other times I was like, I love them as a person, but I'm not in love with them. And I knew the difference because of the experiences I've had, because I could tell a difference between the feeling I would get when I was in love with someone versus when I just kind of liked spending time with someone and I enjoyed their company. And I think it made a difference to my dating experience that I wasn't just throwing around this word because it meant something to me. Now, the word bad and good aren't as emotional. We don't have so much emotion tied to them as maybe the word love. So it might seem silly that it's even a problem to throw that word around. But I find that when we overuse any word in our vocabulary, it becomes less meaningful. I think about my husband, who is very good at saying the right words at the right time. And I find that he doesn't overuse a lot of big words such as I'm proud of you. He might not say that unless he truly means it and I've done something that to him is worth that word. Or he might not compliment the way I look every single day. Even if he does find me beautiful every day, he compliments me on the days he can see I maybe put in a little extra effort. Maybe I did a little bit extra, and those are the days he tells me he's proud of me or he sees all the things I'm doing. But when something is overused, a word is overused, it becomes less meaningful. I was a dancer growing up, and I would notice the coaches that would praise everything I did and the coaches that would tell me when I needed some correction, and they would tell me the truth so that when they told me that I did an amazing job, I knew that I really did. It wasn't just to build my confidence, it was because they truly thought that I did an amazing job. And I think we've all had experiences with this. When you have someone in your life who overuses an expression or overuses a word with you, or just the way that they talk to you about things or praise you for things, when things are overused, it's less meaningful. And even though our brains sometimes think we want to be praised 24/7, we don't, because then we don't think that that person is being genuine. When my husband praises me, I know that it is coming from his heart and that is his truth because he tells me the truth. When he tells me I look good in an outfit, I know it's the truth because he also tells me when I don't look good in an outfit. And he tells me when he doesn't like something I do. And I value that. And that's part of the reason that I married him, because I could tell that he told me the truth, even if it wasn't praising me 24/7, because that's not what I need. I need someone who doesn't overuse praising me, because if that happens, it doesn't mean anything. And that's the same with these words we throw around for ourselves. So what if we, for ourselves, stop throwing around these very bland words like good and bad, and we thought of some new words to explain our day? Because when we say every day is a bad day, and I got into this routine for a while where I would call every day of my life a bad day. Oh, that was just such a bad day, and here's all the reasons why. And I still have this problem. This is something I'm working on right now, which is why I wanted to make this episode, is because my husband comes home from work and I'm like, oh, it's just a bad day. Like, what if instead I explained a little more what happened? I had more of a vocabulary to explain my day. And what if I didn't look at it as black and white? Like it was either good or a bad day. What if there was a million things in between? And we know there are, and yet we still use these black and white terms because it's easier for our brains to deal with the black and white than it is to try to come up with new words or to think outside the box, because we are doing the same thing we've been doing for day after day after day. And when we just label it as good or bad, it's just putting it in a box. Well, let's add some boxes to our vocabulary. What's interesting is when I call a day a bad day, I usually don't even remember it months later. And yet the worst of the worst days of my life, I remember almost every moment of those days, right? And those were the true bad days in my life. The ones where I remember because they were that bad that I remember them. But when you live chronically ill and you have pain and fatigue all the time, it might be tempting, me as the example, it might be tempting to overuse that word bad day because pain seems like a bad thing, right? We always think, oh, pain is definitely bad, fatigue is bad. What if it wasn't, first of all? What if there was a different way to describe it? What if it wasn't the worst thing that could happen to us? Because in reality, my high pain days are not the worst days of my life. Really, truly. Like, there have been way worse days where emotionally it was such a bad day because a really big event happened, something really sad or hard or just awful has happened to me or in the world. Those I want to save for my bad days. What if the days where I feel a little extra pain aren't necessarily my bad days? Maybe they're annoying days sometimes, maybe not even the full day itself, right? Maybe it's, I had a few annoying moments this morning. I had a few frustrating times today, but overall, it wasn't a bad day because we can add some new vocabulary to our thoughts. Because really, it's just the things we're thinking about ourselves. And the way we think about it is how we talk about it. The way we talk about it is how we act, right? It all stems from the way we think. And the way we feel comes from the way we're thinking. And every time I think this is a bad day, I feel crushed. I feel defeated. I feel overwhelmed. But when I think there were some bad moments today, there were some hard moments today, there were some moments that weren't my favorite, but then I had some moments that were really beautiful and amazing. And I had some moments that were kind of average and boring, right? I had all of those moments all day long. And some days, yes, the whole day sucks and it's terrible. That's a very, very, very small percentage of your days. Trust me. It really is. Think about the worst of the worst days you've had. Let's call those the bad days. And let's decide that there's a new vocabulary for the other ones. So as someone who lives chronically ill, I often will tag my bad days along with how I feel physically. And I assume a lot of us do that. A lot of us probably tag how we feel physically with how we feel mentally. But did you know they don't have to be linked? They don't have to go together if you don't want to. You don't have to feel frustrated and annoyed when you're feeling physical pain. It's just an added layer that we're adding on top. It's like we're carrying this heavy backpack full of chronic pain, and then we're adding in all these extra rocks with all of our emotions that are on top of it. It's not required to feel emotional when you feel physical pain. Now, is it difficult not to? Yes, it's very difficult. I think it's hard not to associate those two because that's how our brains work. Our brains associate pain with negative thoughts because they're trying to keep us alive. And when we feel physical pain, our brain is saying, hey, something's wrong, it needs attention, or it's saying, hey, you're going to die if you don't get help right away. So there are times where it's very important to listen to your physical side and how your mental side reacts to it. If you have appendicitis and your body is screaming at you in pain, it's telling you, get me to the emergency room. I need surgery right away in order to live, right? And of course, there's other extreme examples like that. So there are times where it's very important and it helps us. Thank you, brain, for keeping me alive. Thank you, brain, for noticing when I am in physical stress and pain and telling me that there's a problem. But when I deal with this all day, every day, then I don't need to always feel like it's a problem. This is a physical symptom I feel all the time, then I don't have to add this extra layer of stress and overwhelm on top of it because we have control over that part. And like I said, sometimes you want to let your brain run wild with your pain because it keeps you alive and it gets you to the doctor when you break your arm and gets you in a cast. But when you live chronically ill, yes, we want to go see our doctors. Yes, we want to get treatment. Yes, we want to maybe take our medication when we start to notice certain symptoms come up, or we want to take a supplement when we start to notice things, or we want to take something daily to help control our symptoms. Let's do all those things. But then when we still feel these physical symptoms, we don't need to add this layer of all the annoyance and the anger and the frustration, all of those mental symptoms that are extra hard to deal with, because truly we can control that part. We can control our mental state, even if it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes it feels like it's so automatic when you feel a physical symptom that you have this emotion tied to it. And that's because it's been going on for so long. That's how our brains are designed to keep us alive, like I mentioned. But we don't have to keep that. We can break the link and we can try something new. And I think a really good way to do that is noticing what is actually a bad day and what is just an annoyance for an hour. What is just a frustration for a few minutes? What is just a half day of fatigue? What is a full day of fatigue? Does that have to be a bad day? What if those were the best days? What are the days where I was so fatigued that all I did was lay at home and watch Home Edit all night long? What if those were the best days? And then maybe the days where I actually go and organize a closet on my own. The Home Edit is a organizing show, by the way. A day where I go and organize a closet on my own maybe is second best to watching someone else do it while I'm fatigued and tired. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think it feels really good to get up and do something and be productive, yes. But it doesn't have to be that those are the only days that are good, and that the days where we're in a lot of pain and we're really fatigued are necessarily bad. And I promise you, they don't have to be linked. Let me give you an example. When I am in labor, I am in the most pain I've ever been in my life. I've had kidney stones. I've had multiple ovarian cyst rupture. I've had awful migraines. I have so much pain, but I would say being in labor is probably at the top. Or it's near the top, right? And yet that's the best day of my life. The 2 times I've been in labor so far have been amazing, and I cannot wait until I'm in labor again. I'm pregnant, by the way, if you didn't know that. And I'm so excited for that pain, even though it's painful, even though I might not enjoy the pain, even though I might be antsy to get my baby here and stop the pain. I might be antsy to get my epidural or whatever pain medication or things that I'm using to help cope with the pain. I might be excited to get those. I might not be happy the whole time I'm in labor. In fact, I might be kind of miserable. And yet still, that is the best days of my life. Even though most of those days, the 2 days I've had that I've been in labor, 90% of that day I am in excruciating pain, yet the best day of my life, right? And that one might be easy to see. But what about other days? There have been days where I genuinely did not want to do the thing. I didn't want to go to the party. I didn't want to go do the activity that somebody invited me to. I said I would do it originally, and then when it came down to it, I was like, man, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to go to this activity that I said I would do. And then I get a migraine, and I'm like, score! I don't have to go. And it's so exciting, and I'm so happy, and I get to lay in bed the rest of the night. Or I have days where I may be overwhelmed with being a mother. And even though I love being a mom and it's my dream job, I might have days where it's a lot for me. And then I feel extra sick. And those are the days where I'm like, hey, maybe I should ask for extra help. Maybe I should have my husband help a little bit more. Maybe I should call my mom or someone who can watch the kids while I take a rest day. And sometimes those are the best days. Even though, again, I love my kids and I want to spend time with them. Sometimes I need a break, and being sick is a great reason to get a break. And those end up being amazing days where I take care of myself. So it doesn't have to correlate to how you feel physically and how you feel mentally. What if they weren't linked? What if you broke that cycle? What if your bad days were your mentally bad days on their own and it had nothing to do with how you felt physically? It's possible, my friend. It really is possible. And this is something that fascinates me because my brain is so locked on this idea that my physical health and my mental health are linked, and that when I feel more physically sick, I'm going to be grumpier, and I just accept that that's how it is. And if I'm in a bad mood and I'm feeling sick, I just blame it on, well, I'm feeling sick today. That's why I'm annoyed at you, husband. That's why I'm being not as nice to my children. That's why I am being annoyed at the work I have to do, is because of my physical state, when really it's my brain that's doing all of the talking. And it has nothing to do with my physical health. It's just that I'm so used to that pattern that it's hard to break. And when I stop myself and say, hey, Aimee, guess what? That's not how it has to be. You can have a good day and still feel physically awful. You can have a bad day and feel physically amazing. It's true. You can have either one, or you could have literally anything in between. You could have a bad moment and feel completely healthy. You could have an amazing moment and feel the sickest you ever have. I had a moment once with one of my children. She's 3 years old, and I was having a really bad pain day. I was in a lot of pain, and I was curled up in a ball, and I was crying. I was in so much pain as a grown adult. I was crying, and my daughter was there with me, and she was the only one there. And she walked over to me. She put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, Mom, I'm here for you. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to be here with you and hold you. And she did. And she, 3 years old, she sat there with me for over an hour and just held me while I was in excruciating pain. And that was one of the best moments of my life. And it might be tempting for my brain to say that was such a horrible day. I was in so much pain. And yet I had such an amazing moment with my child that it overruled this idea that this pain made me have a bad day. And instead, I had the most amazing day. I should actually say I had an amazing moment, because a day is a long time. That's 24 hours that things can happen. And if you live chronically ill, you probably have ups and downs all day. I have moments where I feel a lot of energy, and by a lot of energy, I probably mean not that much energy compared to, most humans in the world. But for me, I have this moment of more energy. And they have moments where I am exhausted and in so much pain, but it's up and down all day. So when I just pack my day into one word, that's not fair to my day. Like, it's done so much for me. There's been good moments and bad moments and everything in between. So how about at the end of your day today, instead of saying, oh, today was a bad day or today was a good day, what if we just said, there were some ups and downs today. Here was my favorite moment of the day. Here was my least favorite moment of the day. Here's what I want to do better tomorrow. Here's the things I can control. Here's the things I can't control. What if we stopped looking black and white at good days or bad days? What if we didn't have to say today sucked or today was amazing or today was average? What if every day was all of the above and more? Because it is. Like, think about it. It's not black and white. And our brains just think that it's more useful to think in black and white, and it's not. It's never useful. But I do this all the time where I just look at it as it's either one way or it's the opposite. I'm either healthy or I'm sick. I'm either happy or I'm sad. I'm either having a good day or I'm having a bad day. I'm either in a lot of pain or I'm not in pain. No, there's a bajillion things in between all of that. Let's give that some credit. Let's give that some time in our brains, because what we do is we focus on the big moments of the day. Let's say you have an upcoming vacation and you're so excited to go on this vacation. You're thinking about all the amazing things that are going to happen. And then you get there and you realize some of it, is amazing. Some of it's been terrible and some of it's in between, right? Because in reality, it's always going to be that way. I had a friend who was traveling far with young kids, and she told me, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be an awful trip because we're staying in one hotel room, all of us. We have a baby and we have all these things that are going to make it so hard. And she prepared for this to be the worst trip ever, and she ended up having a great trip because there were horrible parts and there were amazing parts. There were parts that were so hard and she just wanted to be home. And there were parts that were so amazing that she's so glad she got through the hard parts. And there was everything in between, right? And this is how our brains work. They're like, either this is going to be amazing or terrible, or this was amazing or terrible. No, there's good and bad in all the things. And in chronic illness itself, there's good and bad. And that is what I want to drill into your brain through this whole podcast, is that it does not have to be black and white. Chronic illness does not mean that your life sucks. And someone who's healthy does not mean that their life is amazing. We all have ups and downs all day. Everything in our life is amazing and terrible and everything in between. It's hard not to focus on the bad when you're in pain, when you're feeling physical symptoms, because our brains are designed to keep us alive. As we talked about, our brains are designed to tell us something's gone wrong, we need help. And because it's been doing that, and because it's trying to keep us alive, it's telling us that there's a problem, even though we know that this is part of our lives and we are working on it and we're trying things, of course, to help with those symptoms, but that this is a part of our life that is here. And it's going to be here, and we don't know how long it's going to be here. It could be here a day. It could be here our whole lives. We're not sure. It could get worse. It could get better. It could go up and down until the day that we move on to the next life. But deciding that while it's here, life has to suck is not a fun way to live. How terrible does that sound? I don't want to live that way. I want to just decide that today's going to be awesome and it's going to have some hard stuff too. And tomorrow's going to be the same. And if I get healed tomorrow, then I'm still going to have amazing things and terrible things in my life. Either way, all the things that happen in our life will give us the good and the bad and the in-between. So as you look on your next few days of your life, I want you to go to the end of your day and I want you to get out a journal. I actually highly recommend daily journaling for everyone, but especially if you live chronically ill and you're struggling mentally with coping with something hard like chronic illness, it can be a great tool to use. So I highly recommend journaling. And at the end of your day, over the next few days, I want you to talk about your day in anything but black and white. I don't want you to use the word good. I don't want you to use the word bad. I want you to get creative with the way you talk about your day. I want you to notice that it wasn't all or nothing. I want you to notice the amazing, beautiful moments that you would give anything to capture that and keep that forever, and the moments that you just want to get rid of, and all of the in-between. And a lot of the times we focus on those two extremes, the really, really good or the really, really bad. Let's focus on the middle. Yeah, let's notice the good and bad, the highs and the lows. But why don't we focus a little bit more on the middle ground? Because when we're focused on the middle ground, we are more grounded. We are more balanced. Because even if we think about all the amazing things, that also can cause issues. I don't think it's ever helpful to look at your life and think everything's perfect and amazing and I don't need to change a single thing. No, we want to grow and develop as humans. We want things to change, even though it's hard and scary sometimes to change. We really do want that. We want to change for the better, right? And in order to do that, we need to be balanced. And balance comes from, yes, seeing both the extremes of the amazing and the terrible, but it also comes from seeing that in-between part, the part that we kind of forget about, the part that we leave in the background because the really, really bad thing that happened that day, the extreme pain we felt, is overpowering our thoughts that we can't even remember those in-betweens. I want you to notice that there are other ways of looking at the world. And once you start to realize that there is no box that has to be put in, you don't have to decide that feeling a physical symptom is a bad thing and a terrible thing, and I won't have a good life without it. There are so many other things in the middle that we could think about, that we could add to our world. What if a good day and a bad day wasn't even a thing? What if that wasn't even possible to have a good day? Think about it. I don't think it's possible to have a good day, 100% of the day be good. I just don't think that's possible. I've never had a day where 100% for 24 hours straight, every single second that happened was perfect and awesome, and I loved it. Or I don't think there's ever been a day that's been 100% bad, ever. Nobody in the world has had a 100% terrible day every single second. Even when awful, awful things happen, we still have moments where things are maybe a little bit better. We still have moments of maybe a little bit of peace. We still have moments where we are drained emotionally, but someone happens to be there for us. And there is something good that came. What if a good day and a bad day did not exist? What if you took that out of your vocabulary? If that wasn't a part of your vocabulary, what would you say about your day instead? What would you say about your moments instead if there was no good and no bad? There was just a million other things in between. How would you talk about today if there was no extreme? If there was no word that I had to attach to the entire day, but instead I could attach to little moments throughout the day? So take your journal over the next few days, and I want you to really think about the way you're talking about your life and your days. I want you to experiment with taking out the idea that good and bad even exist. It's possible. So I want you to take control of your life starting today on episode number 2 of the podcast. That you do not have to fit into a good or bad box. You personally, your illness, your day, your children, your spouse, your friends, nobody has to fit into a box that is good or bad or any other simple word. We are not simple creatures. We are complex creatures. Even the smartest people in the world do not fully know how our brains work. We are so complex, nobody can figure it out. So stop trying to put your life or your day or your trial or your chronic illness into a box of one word. It's a million words. And you don't have to know what all of those are today, but you can figure it out one day at a time. Let me know in the comments of the YouTube version of this podcast how that went for you. How you were able to maybe see something differently when you didn't just put it in a good or bad box. And when you saw it as complex and amazing and as terrible and as everything in between as it is. Tell me how that goes, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one-on-one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific real-world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.